Welcome back, everyone, to the Virginia High School League Fall 2022 Championships. Everyone's been waiting for it all day. We got League of Legends.
We certainly have.
Yeah, so we're going to be moving into the fall finals for League of Legends, and we have a bit of a doozy.
Bit of a situation on our hands, right?
Yeah, so due to a lot of the circumstances with the bracket leading into the finals, some students have already planned for vacations, not expecting to make it here. Some things change, and so one team does not have all 5 of their players here today. I believe that is Rock Ridge. So Rock Ridge High School will be competing with 4 players against Freedom High School's 5 players. I have been told that player aptitude is pretty similar, so it'll be interesting to see how a lack of a player impacts the match. It is clearly a disadvantage, right? You're losing numbers. But the thing about League is that you already, depending on how you frame it, you might have some champions that can survive on their own. Like you could have ADCs that could survive on their own in the bot lanes because a lot of people sometimes don't even have a support.
Right.
So we'll see how it shakes out.
Yeah, and I will say this preseason meta is definitely the time where if you're going to try to put a game on your back, a solo style, you definitely can. But it'll be interesting to see as we move into the ban phase. We're seeing a lot of common picks from your Aatroxes and Sejuanis. It seems like Freedom's really trying to ban out that top lane.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many approaches that you can reach for, right? You could say, we're just going to go 3 solo lanes and then a jungler, right? And then in that bottom solo lane, you can go that traditional attack damage carry.
Right.
You can go for shoving a support and putting your attack damage into jungle or top or something of that sort, like you mentioned. So this first phase of draft will be really interesting to try to see what direction they're going in.
Yeah, this is certainly something I can't say I've ever seen before, and I don't know if this has ever been done in a relatively competitive setting. So I can't confidently say what the strategy is as we see a first pick blind Samira.
Whoa! You have a little bit of expertise on that.
Yes. So Kevin and I are on the current varsity team for Shenandoah here, and I am the AD carry player. And Samira is my favorite champion. So I personally would never in my life, and Kevin can tell you this, blind pick Samira. Samira is extremely easy to lock down and counter. That's not exactly what I had envisioned for a dependable solo pick, but I mean, it is a champion that can hyper carry on her own, so we'll see.
Yeah, but it looks like they're not alone. We got Alistair with Samira in the bot lane. And I will say, Samira's sort of counterplay to getting hit by CC that's projectile-based is her W, right? But now we're seeing Galio with his W able to cancel it at any given time. So Samira's definitely got to hold that trigger as long as possible. But we also see the Yone pick.
Yeah, I mean, it's very clear that the approach that Rockridge is taking is actually every lane plays traditionally, there's no jungler. That looks like the way that it's leaning. And I think if that's the route they're going, I would like to see this Yone go top and an AP damage output champion be picked mid.
Probably.
Because you have the tank, you have double engage in the form of Yone and Alistar, you have sustained damage from the form of Samira and Yone. The only thing you're missing is ability power, right?
Yeah, and I'm also noticing that, like, these are, on the side of Rockridge, these are very confident, aggressive picks. These are, I'm going to beat you in lane and then take our theoretical numbers advantage into late game. But these are confidence picks of I'm better than you, and so I'm going to pick aggressive champions. And I feel like inherent numbers disadvantage, you kind of have to play like that, because if you play a slow, methodical game, you're gonna get outnumbered.
Right. Now, as we continue the pick ban phase, we notice Jin being picked against Alistar, who's a very immobile AD carry, can definitely get caught out, but has the support of that Galio, able to sort of try to peel off whoever gets close. And we see even more peel off with the Shen pick as well. But now we see Rockridge is rocking 4 of like 380 champions and Alistar, whose damage is not too high.
Yeah.
Versus a very high output damage team.
If I'm looking at these drafts and the situation that we're currently living in, I think Freedom drafts a really interesting comp. Because if you know that they have a number disadvantage, why not go a full global comp and then completely stomp with your jungler? Like, I think as soon as 6 is on the board for Shen, he'll be ganking with the jungler and nothing will really go down. I mean, you could even have Shen be the ganker and you could have your jungler cover top lane and you will not lose anything, right?
Right.
Interesting is the way that I have to think about this.
Yeah, it is important to note that, like, while they didn't completely draft around your global idea, they do have a strong global presence in Shen ult and Galio ult, right?
Wait, is that Shen support?
It's Shen top.
No, they're Fiora.
No, Fiora's mid. It's Galio
Shen
support, Jin, AD carry,
Shen top.
Fiora mid,
Shen top. Oh, Fiora goes mid now?
She can, yeah.
Well, we're in weird circumstances, Nikita.
We're the unknown.
But anyway, so even if Rockridge is looking for these sort of picks, like creating their own numbers advantages, as ironic as this is, you're never gonna have a numbers advantage because Shen and Galio, and I'm assuming and hoping Fiora will bring TP to also match that global presence. You will never have a numbers advantage against a team like this.
Yeah, and the approach in the mid game is going to be so interesting because in order to commit to a dragon or a herald, you either have to trade the objective, so, we have vision on them taking Drake, let's go take herald because it's free, or if they have an advantage, you kind of need to force all 4 to be there because you have no way to secure any objectives.
Yeah.
Yeah. On top of that, it's gonna be on Rockridge to, as soon as they can, start taking jungle camps on their side, because right now Lilia has full reign, and Lilia that is able to get like with up to like 25-30 minutes into the game and keep the game going is so influential that suddenly that pick can sit in the jungle if it really wants to and just power farm.
Yeah, and another thing I want to make clear is that as hard as we're making this sound, it is very hard for Rockridge to win a full game down an entire player. But it's not impossible, right? With all
Just
due respect,
improbable.
these are not professionals. People will make mistakes. And those mistakes can add up, especially with champions like Samira and Yone. Like, these hyper carry, if you misstep once, I'm going to win the game type champs. It's improbable, but not impossible, yeah.
Yeah, this feast or famine approach is probably the only appropriate route to take when you're already starving.
I agree.
Right?
Yeah.
And you touched on the jungle being an interesting point of contention, because if you don't try to take your own jungle camps, Lilia will be twice as fed as she would regularly be, right? Mm-hmm. And that's kind of where Rockridge gets a bit of a benefit with the meta shift, where it is harder to steal enemy jungle camps early in the game, right? So even committing to stealing those buffs in the first 5 minutes or so will almost put Lilia behind in a weird way on tempo.
Yeah. Wow, we have a lot to think about. This is a strange situation that I never expected to be realistically thinking through.
Yeah, I mean, there might even be some fun plays where you might just play some sneaky wards inside your own jungle on like your red buff or your blue buff early, and then plan a collapse on that Lilia when she comes, because she'll be lower health and she'll be stuck there a lot longer out of position.
Yeah, and you have to be willing to sack farm and any type of lane state to take those small advantages, because you're not going to get advantages elsewhere. So you need to be willing to throw away your lane state for these miracle leads.
Yeah.
This will be very fun to watch.
Now, I do want to touch on a little bit the Garen pick topside, because we do see Samira is a very hyper carry. Yone is very hyper carry. Garen is just a very you go in against a Garen and you kind of know what you're up against, but also they tend to try to be in the side lanes. They try to continue that pressure. So making it a 3v5 would be a very awkward sort of team fight.
Yeah, especially with the champions that were drafted in response by Freedom, where you have this Fiora that will happily sit alone in a side lane until 40 minutes into the game when she can solo everything. And the same with Shen, where Shen can now be on the exact opposite lane and can TP whenever there's any trouble afoot, right?
Right. Yeah, the other element that's going to be a little bit misleading through all of this is going to be the gold. Because there is that champion advantage, we'll have to keep in mind sort of where that gold is, and is that advantage that's going to look like Rockridge is behind, will that truly be enough to make a difference just because it's on a champion that may not have enough influence for Rockridge to fall completely out of the game?
So we do see with Freedom already pushing their numbers advantage by taking the blue side red buff, right?
Yeah, thinking about it, that was probably the smart way to go, right?
Sure.
Where you the minions will be walking to lane. You could take full advantage of the enemy jungle. If they're even trying to stand there for some reason, you easily get a first blood or waste some summoners. So I think it is smart to start with the enemy red buff so that mitigation of, there's now nerfed counter jungling is kind of taken out of the question entirely.
Yeah.
We do see Lilia begin to path back into her own jungle, but also that Yone getting very hardly punished for that engage on the Fiora.
He might
Fiora
go down.
goes down, or Yone goes down to the ignite, and Fiora able to get a pretty good advantage off of that. Yone with no TP will not be able to get back to this lane before that wave crashes.
So that's not what we wanted to see from Rockridge, right? I mean, we need these early leads and aggressive leads. Great dash by Samira to get out of that. But any lane for Rockridge that comes out of laning phase even is a losing lane. You need to be ahead if you want any chance. And if leaving lane even is a bad thing, you especially don't want to be leaving lane losing.
Yes, and
Looks like we have a quick pause. Probably some technical difficulties, but
yeah, I think it is very important that you're putting the onus on Rockridge to have a lead exiting the laning phase.
Right.
The way to success is having an early lead. If you have enough gold for 5 people by the time you're exiting laning phase, you might have a chance at success. Yeah. And something that we haven't even seen, we've already seen a losing lane. The jungle hasn't had a presence yet. And the more lanes you have winning for the side of Freedom is more lanes that me as a jungler, I don't need to attend to anymore. Mm-hmm. So now you can make other lanes winning lanes. So if you have a single lane losing for Rockridge, you now have 2 losing lanes because that jungle will be there to help others.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there is no right answer. This is such a tough position to be in from 0 seconds into the game, but here we are.
Yeah, and just speaking on that, because all the lanes have that advantage right now, we're seeing the waves push into Rockridge, and that's leading to very awkward sort of movement, or just how it sort of plays out because Lily's not the kind of jungler that can really walk that far forward and get anything off in the early game. So Rockridge might be able to walk away with a good enough CS lead that it'll potentially snowball.
Yeah, and speaking of this Lilia, we might see some presence top. It is warded, so you'd like to see Rockridge back off from that, which it looks like they are doing. Yeah, I mean, Lilia's kind of playing an interesting game pre-level 6 where she's just like prancing around and then, ooh, is this an easy gank? Is this not an easy gank? Oh, well, let me go farm all of my free 4 quadrants of jungle. So paying attention to her, probably not that important because she doesn't have to commit to a gank and she's winning by not ganking. She only gets a surplus if she does gank. So, yeah. Thinking about this game and watching these lanes play out, it's a different game for Rockridge. I mean, we keep talking about it. If they're not winning, they're losing. It's a different mentality to have, and these players will need to get a hold of that to realize that.
Yeah, but we have 3 fights breaking out across the map.
Yeah, bot lane will walk out relatively unharmed. Not sure about the other 2 lanes, but...
Yeah, Garen's fight topside looked to be Shen favored, and Fiora, again, has that pressure early on. So it's just, for the first 10-15 minutes, just going to be a lot of sitting back, relaxed. If you want to trade, go for it, but not much should come of it.
Yeah, and then with the summoners you're choosing, you almost don't even know if you want to take teleport for the side of Rockridge, right? Mm-hmm. You know you have to win early, and that's seen with the Yone, right? We have that Ignite slotted mid. But the unfortunate side of that is the Fiora also has Ignite, and they're matching your power. Yeah, this state of the circumstances of the game are interesting.
You will get caught. Wow. The Fiora riposte the Yone ult from a weird position. That was an interesting exchange, but well played by Fiora, knowing those hitboxes and getting the stun off to find the kill.
Yeah, but speaking of kill, I believe Garen might be able to get something here. The taunt coming out at the very end, and we won't see anything come of it. But now, we see the other disadvantage of playing down a jungler. First draft.
Yeah, no control over neutral objectives. And you have to expect that, right? You can't be put off by that. We all knew that was coming. So just shake that off and keep trying to find these early leads. Build success elsewhere.
Yeah, and now it's, as the time keeps ticking and as this Fiora keeps bolstering her advantage, Rockridge needs to find some small victories. This won't just be a slow death if they end up even. With those Drake stacking and them joining up 5v5 or 5v4 to fight, it'll be a quick demise for Rockridge if Freedom wants to push it after 15 minutes with that second Herald potentially.
Yeah, and a lead for a team of 5 people against 4 becomes infinitely easier to snowball. So Rockridge needs to find a way to stop the bleeding. They might have one here if Samira can find a kill, get an early lead.
But
we do have the Lilia follow-up, so here comes that numbers advantage. Samira will fall and Alistar will be close behind. And here we are. So now mid lane down 2 kills, bot lane down 2 kills. How do you stop the bleeding now?
We did see the Shen ulti come out, and it looks like bot lane's really pushing for those plates, but will Garen be able to, get some pressure topside, start making that money? It might be as simple as going back on what I was saying about Garen being in the side lane and just having to play around that in as awkward as it may be, as Garen walks away with about 350 gold off of plates alone.
Yeah, I mean, the only advantage on paper is this Garen in the top lane. If you're matching against a Shen, there will inevitably be times when Shen will leave. Shen will ult to help the fight. But then there's also the trade-off of Shen getting 2 assists in that while Garen gets a wave and a plate, right? So even when Garen is getting these seemingly isolated victories, He's losing on the cross map, and that's kind of the issue here. Even when Rock Ridge is winning, they're winning when Freedom is letting them. They're not really gaining any victories themselves. I mean, even when they tried to force a favorable 2v2 in the bot lane, 10 seconds later it's a 2v4 and they're losing, right?
Exactly. Yeah, you never have numbers against a team like this, and it's not even just. Yep, the Exhibit A, Galio ult comes in and does find a taunt. Garen could go down, not quite. They choose not to dive. Garen looking to get his recall, will cancel it, try to get the wave. Galio making his way out. But again, it's not even the 4v5, it's the team comp that you never have a numbers advantage. And I mean, again, it's ironic that this team literally doesn't have a numbers advantage, but with a Galio and a Shen, I mean, everyone is everywhere all at once, and it can be hard to deal with.
Yeah.
Now, good on Rock Ridge's bot lane right now. The wave is pushing into them, and they know that Galio is topside. Jhin isn't able to walk up to that wave right now and is starting to feel that bleeding. But once again, we see that neutral objective, the Rift Herald taking place.
Yeah, Garen looking to contest the Rift Herald 1v2. Might get a kill. As we see an engaged mid lane, parried quickly by... wow, no. And Yone does go down. That's really not good for Rock Ridge. Garen did get out of that situation somehow, but that's not worth it at all.
And there's also nothing stopping from Lilia from going right back to that Herald and taking it.
Exactly.
And not only that, Fiora just took mid tower.
Wow, we see an engaged bot lane. Jhin taking a tower shot or two, gets very low. Samira's dash is interrupted, so she won't be able to follow up. Surely they can't kill that. Galio, wow, maybe. Oh, and Samira will get the reset, might get a double kill. Wow, well played by Rock Ridge's bot lane. 2 for 0. See, that's what we needed to see, but a while ago. I said it during Rocket League, baby steps are still steps, right? Progress is progress, but we needed that a while ago.
Yeah, but also these champions are the kind of champions that you give them an inch and they take a mile.
Sure.
So Samira may be able to start tangoing with everyone else, but it's going to be on this Galio later in the game to not burn the taunt and other CC tools that can get through to Samira on targets such as Yone or Garen, which is such a double-edged sword.
Yeah, and it's important to note, off those 2 kills, Samira finished her shield bow. And it looks like, I can't quite tell, looks like Jhin has his Gale Force as well.
Yeah.
Correct.
So Mythics acquired for bot lane. But Samira is ahead of Jhin, and Samira is a champion that you want a gold lead on. I mean, if they're gonna pull this off, it's gonna be through her, and that's where you want your money.
Yeah, and now if you're trying to think about how you're playing this game, every time you win, there's something else pushing back at you. So now that Samira has this gold, ideally you'd want her to be alone in a side lane, but now if Fiora shows up, Samira's dead, right?
Exactly.
So you're like, oh, now we want Alistar to just keep hovering Samira for the rest of the game because Alistar is the only person who could feasibly somewhat muzzle a Fiora here in the form of Ignite, potentially buying a Bramble Vest later. So even when they get the win, they're now thinking, how do we have to play around them now?
Yeah. And it's important to note, we've been looking at this, wow, dropping Herald mid. This actually could be, this has potential to end the game.
Yeah.
If Freedom plays this right, which they do find a pick onto Yone, now both side lanes need to come back because that Herald can end the game if they need it to. It will probably die, but they have a wave coming in and they have numbers. We've been saying it all day, they have numbers. Herald will charge again. Chunk down one turret. They might not be able to end. Garen looking for a kill top lane.
Looking for that ulti. He wants one more hit. Unable to find it. But again, we saw them in the enemy base.
Wow, might get the kill. He does. Garen ult coming down with the execute and is able to find a solo kill while his base is dying. But oh, and here comes Fiora. This fight is not over top lane. See if Garen can get out of this. Fiora doesn't have exact location yet. Now they do. But wow. Jeez. Yeah, Fiora deals some damage. Good night to Garen.
Yeah,
so that will end up being a 1-for-1. And as we said, even trades are losing for Rock Ridge.
Yeah, that's what a 40-stack Ravenous Hydra does.
Exactly.
And I will say the great North American League of Legends saying is an early inhib is free gold. So it will be interesting to see if Rock Ridge has... I mean, I would almost like to see them just keep that Samira mid and just farm those free waves for 3 minutes or so just to get some form of a lead. And it's frustrating, too, because we're seeing great individual outplays from the side of Rock Ridge. We've seen the bot lane duo have multiple good-looking fights. They've won one, and then they've lost another due to the comp.
Alistair could be in a tough spot here. Won't fall to the Jhin ult. He might get out. I don't think they have the damage. Meanwhile, Samira goes in on Jhin. That's where the Jhin ult went. Now here's the follow-up, right? Suddenly this is a 3v1.
Yeah,
that's that global pressure we were talking about. In 1 second, that fight goes from a 1v1 favoring Samira to a 3v1. Meanwhile, top lane, we have a Garen 1v1ing an extremely fed Fiora who might take him down. He does from the Ignite. Wow. This is hard because Rock Ridge is playing decently well given the circumstances, but they are being choked out by their circumstances.
Yeah, I mean, as we were talking about it, we got interrupted by another instance of it.
Right.
Where we see this bot lane make good plays. They are picking the fights that they want to fight, and then if they don't win them in time, 4 to 5 people show up, and then they're losing, right? Like, the comp for the next game will be interesting because they've seen how Freedom responded to this predicament.
Oh, Samira looking for a quick pick. Will she kill the Jhin? She does. Now she gets a reset. See if she can get out or maybe find another kill on Galio. Looking for the damage. Ults again will get canceled and she'll fall to the Shen. And now Alistair running for his life does have to flash out, but might be okay. Galio looking to chase and changes his mind. So, a 1-for-1, but how many times have I said it today? That's not enough to win you this game. It's heartbreaking to watch, but this is the state of a 4v5.
Yeah, I think good things have been seen. We've seen the solo wins. We've seen the 2v2 wins. So I think it's more thinking towards the next game.
Sure.
Do we want to maybe even take these global picks? Like maybe do we want to go Shen top so we can steal that and help push forward? Okay, we're going to lose top lane or we'll go even top, but we'll force ahead mid, we'll force ahead bot. That could be a choice. Maybe you could look at the bans being switched. So we just ban all these global champions. I don't want to see your Galio. I don't want to see your Shen. I think that could also be something. Like, I think if I'm Rock Ridge, I'm scared of this global sensation.
For sure.
And if I'm Freedom, I think you might even want to take it a step forward, maybe draft like a Nocturne or something.
Yeah.
And just completely steamroll the next game to try to lead to a victory for the fall finals.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And from the perspective of Rock Ridge, I think you also need to address the mid lane issue, right? Mid lane got way out of control way fast. And I think you need to evaluate, was it the Fiora? Was it the Yone? As we see a Herald charge down mid, Herald number 2. Freedom looking to start a fight. Big damage from Galio and Jhin. Jhin ult opens up. Galio ult will knock up multiple. Fiora ult is going to keep her healed. Nobody's taking damage from Freedom. And we will... Game 1, we'll go to Freedom. It's hard to say we didn't see it coming, but I think we saw signs of life there.
Yeah, I would say if you... It was pretty scripted, right? Where it's... You get that second Herald, you get that final push, and you end it on that. But flashes of brilliance are kind of the name of the game for Rock Ridge. We saw that Garen that we were all skeptical of, I feel like, as a pick, be one of the shining lights of the comp.
Oh, absolutely.
We see this first pick Samira actually work out.
Yeah.
I mean, if there was potentially, a bit better kiting or happenstance to be a little different with 50 to 100 HP, she might have had 2 more kills, 3 more kills like that.
Sure.
And then she could potentially get Triumph Rocks, keep fighting, turn the tide as well. Maybe if that Galio got killed before that Shen taunt went out, she actually turns it on all of them, and that's a 1v3, right?
Exactly.
So there's good things to work on for this side of Rock
sure.
Ridge.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm the thing I'm looking forward to the most is the next draft, right? I mean, I guess that's logical, but there are so many different ways to approach what we just watched. And I mean, you said it. Do you approach it through bans? Do you take the champions and keep the bans? I don't remember what the bans were game 1, but do they mean enough to you? Like, are you married to those ideas? I don't know. I mean, I'll be curious to see what Rock Ridge does, but I think there's potential.
Yeah, in my mind, the first thing you do is you get rid of Fiora. Fiora's lead that game was able to be pushed so fast, so easily.
And that cannot happen.
Exactly. And I wouldn't say it was so much on either player as much as it was just matchup.
Sure.
On top of Hydra.
Yes.
Hydra being
Needs
so
to be
good right
addressed.
now. And Fiora able to crack that mid tower so quickly because of the changes about a couple months ago with the Q working on tower. That really snowballed that lead because suddenly Inhib went down super early, and now they're down another player on these plays on the rest of the map.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you talked about it well when we're looking at maybe they need to change this mid lane, right? And is that banning the enemy mid laner in your case? Is that thinking about the role of the mid laner differently? Maybe they want to go maybe like a mage bot or a mage support, and now we put that tank in the mid. We acknowledge we're not going to win this matchup, so this will be where we go even at least, right? We're going to soak pressure so this mid laner can't get ahead, and we'll take the loss in the form of a tie here, and we'll put pressure elsewhere.
Yeah, I think that's a very smart idea. I'm just not sure. Is there a gross counter to Fiora? Like, if we're talking either banning it or taking it or picking a tank, is there someone that can just out matchup Fiora?
You don't want to pick a tank. You would want to pick something more bruiser.
Probably like an Aatrox, right?
That's dangerous
Maybe not
because it's
of the
telegraphed.
cost. Yeah.
You would want to go something with just relatively raw damage, but also, I mean, frankly, if you just play through the lane, like you don't try to go for these trades, you just play it relatively slow, that can really make a difference. But we're seeing mostly the same bans, except for this Fiora here getting it knocked right out.
Yeah, so I agree with this. I'm not sure if this is a personal vendetta against Swain and Olaf or whatever. Like, that's fine. But I agree that, like, banning Fiora last, right, to not reveal your strategies, not let the other team think about what they're going to do about it.
Ooh.
Interesting.
Yeah, banning Teemo. That could mean a couple things. But
Yeah.
He's a scary fella.
yeah.
So this is an important first pick.
And we see
Mordekaiser.
another hyper carry-esque champion.
So that could go multiple places, can it? Top lane, mid lane, jungle even?
Yeah.
I mean, I doubt we'll see a jungler now, but
I don't know.
Yeah.
Arguably you can, but frankly, I feel like you would want to bring a top lane. Oh, especially if they block in Scion. But we'll see. Yeah, another. Speaking of your average Hydra and Jack Show user, Hecarim, one of the best picks in the game right now, and that's definitely one of those picks where you either know how to counter it or you're sitting ducks.
yeah.
And that might be one of the answers.
Interesting.
That's a very confident-based pick.
Here we are with more Hydra users.
Uh-huh.
The state of the game is very clearly defined, and you can't blame people for playing the game as intended. But Diana is an interesting pick, too. I don't want to gloss over that.
Yeah, Diana right now is another champion that builds Jack Show and then goes damage and becomes very hard to deal with.
Samira ban, smart.
Yeah,
She
I like
looked
that.
very comfortable on Samira, so...
Yeah, I like, without seeing the last pick for the side of Rock Ridge, I like the adjustment a little better, where you have clearly defined roles, right? You have the two bruisers who can, I mean, you basically have at least a full tank among these three drafted, right?
Right.
So you don't need to go ahead and draft a solo tank. You have an enchanter in the form of Tarek. You have that AP damage in the form of Mordekaiser, and at minimum you have AD in the form of Wukong. So now you can even go mage bot, you can go marksman bot. I mean, they might even just shove like a Mordekaiser bot here and make fun of all of us for talking about top, mid, and jungle.
Yeah. Now, I will say, Mordekaiser, picking Hecarim into Mordekaiser can go one of two ways. With this 4v5 and the way this team is starting to look for Rockridge, it looks like you want to hold Mordekaiser ult until the fight is ending, or you play for the pick. But with Hecarim, if he dives onto an AD carry, if they so choose, no, they don't.
Tryndamere.
Oh, no way.
Interesting.
So they're playing three strong, relatively strong side laners.
Yeah,
and
so
just
who
trying to
goes
keep up pressure,
where?
right?
Is this Targ jungle?
Good.
Whoa.
River Tarek?
River Tarek, 4v5.
Or in last pick for Freedom. So, man, I mean, this is hard to analyze.
It is.
These are weird circumstances, but I mean, I agree. I think I like these adjustments. It looks like we might be leaning toward a Tarek jungle if this lineup is right.
Yeah, I don't even know what to say. I mean, I guess what we could do is take a look at this side for Freedom, right? We see a very traditional team comp. We see tank engage top in the form of Ornn. We've been talking about it, one of the most infamous Hydra users currently in the form of Hecarim. That could be your sustained damage output. And then we have a pretty unique pick for ability power, I would say, in Diana currently. But that still is that sustained AP damage. Right. And then probably one of the most traditional bot lanes in competitive play in Aphelios Thresh. It's kind of just the bread and butter.
Textbook.
Yeah. So going vanilla, gotta focus on fundamentals.
Sure.
And at minimum, you win in 30 minutes because you have a member advantage and you're playing a regular team comp. So at minimum, it's a good draft, right?
Yeah. And I feel like we have been talking a lot from Rockridge's perspective of like how to win. But looking at this from Freedom's perspective, they are doing exactly what they need to do, right? You can't overthink this. Just play what got you here in the first place. Stick to your fundamentals. And I mean, game one, we saw that with a very textbook global presence draft, and this is no different. It's not global presence, but like just textbook normal draft, and they're not going to let it get in their own heads. They're going to play the game like they always would.
Yeah, and you could be seeing an almost global presence as well with a champion like Hecarim, where if this Hecarim plays around the mid lane, he could be at any lane by the time a fight breaks out. Ideally, he's going to be taking Ghost, I would suppose, Ghost Smite, and then that Thresh I'd like to see gank every lane on reset.
I agree.
We saw a little bit of it last game. I'd like to see it again. Thresh can just walk into any of these lanes and just kind of cause havoc. I mean, even with something like an Ornn, the amount of CC that'll be put onto there will be massive. So, yeah, I mean, I think they're going to go full feast or famine. They pick 3 really strong individual lanes for the side of Rockridge. This Tryndamere can carry, this Mordekaiser can carry, this Wukong can carry. Just chuck a Hydra on everyone at this point. So I think it'll be interesting to see how they play these early lanes because I think they know they need to win them.
Yeah. And not only that, I'd argue if a team fight breaks out between both of these teams, Freedom has everything you could ask for, right? You can peel off Helios, but you can also dive in with Diana Hecarim. And yet at the same time, if Tryndamere, Wukong, or Mordekaiser get even remotely close and Tark pulls the trigger on the R, suddenly it becomes a whole lot more difficult because Wukong's AoE with Hydra is very strong right now. Mordekaiser's passive damage, if he's not ulting at the beginning of these fights, will be great shred. And then Tryndamere is your standard, I'm going to go in and not die anyway.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of sustain of just pure living for Tryndamere in these team fights, you could be in there for like 20 seconds straight and not be able to be killed. Yeah, I mean, this game will be interesting. And for the team fight from the side of Freedom as well, you can almost bait these cooldowns out. So maybe you want the Ornn to bait and engage and throws out that Ornn ultimate, and then we're like, oh, shoot, they're ulting in on us. They're going to engage. Let's pop Taric ulti now. And you could wait, and then you still have Diana and Hecarim ulti to just re-engage 10 seconds later, right?
And I'll be curious to see if Thresh builds something like a Shurelya's, like to even bolster that explosiveness that we're already going to see from Hecarim and Diana.
Well, we move into game 2. I believe we're going to see a very similar opening where Freedom moves in to the enemy jungle with that numbers advantage alongside having that hook champion. But also, I mean, at this point, Rockridge is probably aware and is just looking to stay back, stay relatively safe, because I don't know if you win this 4v5.
Oh, we've got an uncomfortable situation here. This is a 2v5 as Taric hits the stun. That's an important stun. Thresh hook goes wide, and the Glacial Augment will slow everyone. Rockridge walks out of that alive. That's a huge misplay from Freedom.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm seeing 2 of Rockridge stand in that bush, I'm pretty sure at least one of them is going down, right?
With 5 people standing with you, or I guess 4 people standing around you?
I want to see some summoners at least, and
wow.
Taric hits 1E, stuns the team, procs the Glacial, they're just able to walk away. I don't even know if that's lucky, I don't know if that's planned. I don't even know what to say about that, but
wow,
we're seeing a very similar start to the first game where Freedom will be taking advantage of this number advantage, taking the enemy red buff, and then we'll probably start pathing back to their own blue, then go to their own red, and then look for a gank. If it's not gankable, I'll just go take more farm for free. There's probably something similar where it's just 4-quadrant farming.
Yeah, and I can't quite tell. What is Taric's summoner spell?
He did take Flash and Ignite, so there is no Smite present.
Very, very interesting. So, okay. I'm at a loss for words. Taric sharing XP with this Wukong? I mean, I get it, right? Wow, Thresh hook goes wide again. That's unfortunate.
Thresh is playing just a little bit too hard on the predictions, like trying to make the flashy plays, and it's not working out at the moment. We do see, so Tryndamere mid against Diana is favored for Tryndamere solely because it's a melee matchup. But it's on this Tryndamere to use and abuse the early crit chance and start just wailing on this Diana early, because that is your best opportunity to take this Diana down.
Yeah, for sure. See, a lot of trades up top lane. Might not amount to anything, but definitely something to keep an eye on, because as we've beat this horse to death, even trades are not even. So if anyone dies in this top lane now that both of these players are so low health, certainly something to keep an eye on. As we see Wukong engage on Aphelios, he does get hooked to delay the rest of his damage. Wow, he might get killed in return. Not quite, but interesting trade there. I mean, that was a good combo from Taric and Wukong to find the stun.
Yeah, it's also interesting to see, though, you burn the flash off the Aphelios, right? What does he have in his pocket? He has Ghost now.
Yeah.
So even if you do get another stun,
wow,
Aphelios can just kite away, walk away quickly, and nothing will happen again. You'll just reset.
As well as Thresh Lantern. That's an easy out as long as Thresh is not standing in the middle of the enemy team flaying or something.
Yeah, and even then, when you get a good look and a good fight in the form of that Taric engage, you think, oh, okay, cool, I could just walk back away. Wukong has to throw himself out there so far to get damage on these champions. Whereas we have double range champions in the form of Thresh and Aphelios, and they can just walk away and do damage.
Yeah, so we do see Wukong take it back. Tarek might fall here. He's forced to flash, see if the damage is not enough. Tarek does have these heals. They're slow and expensive, but will survive for now and still soak up this XP from that huge wave that was crashing.
Yeah, the interesting thing to see will be when Tark potentially looks to roam on reset. Will he stay in that lane after he roams? Because he does have the ability to support any of these champions. Oh, that's a great hook.
That is a great hook. Wukong holds his decoy, though, so that was smart. He's able to get out of that situation that could have gone much, much worse. But
now, I want to draw quick attention to CS numbers real fast.
yeah.
The Tryndamere is keeping up with the Diana, but because of that, what you mentioned earlier, that double range versus double melee bot lane, that's really starting to struggle. And also, this Mordekaiser is getting bullied very hard by the Zorn.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the Tark almost has as much CS as the Wukong due to being out of lane for a minute or so after that fight. Yeah, even is not winning, and they are even right now, is what it's looking like. Yeah, even this Tryndamere, which looked pretty decent, had some form of advantage in health early, is still down in CS by almost a full wave or so.
Tryndamere trades, just walking up and auto-attacking. Love that.
Yeah,
Thresh looking for a possible play mid lane. Keep an eye on that.
And then, not even to mention it, because there's no lane matchup in the form of jungle, Hecarim almost has 50 CS.
Yeah.
And is already farming a new quadrant, which already respawned, and will probably continue to have 100 in another 3 minutes or so.
Yeah.
Right, and we do see Thresh beginning to clear off that dragon. It's looking like it's going to be a very cut-and-paste version of last game at the moment.
Yeah, very cookie cutter. Let me get the first Drake, then let me get the first Herald. Let's all group after a good fight. Use that Herald in that team, or in that lane that we grouped. Rinse and repeat. Let's get second Drake. Let's get second Herald and end on second Herald at like 18 minutes. That was the game plan for last game, and it's shaping up with the way that they're posturing and clearing, that they're going to take this first Drake and then probably posture up top to take that Herald.
Right, as we see them begin to start that dragon. If I'm this Tryndamere right now, I would be looking to take the camps, which we do see on the mini-map. Nope, never mind. But I would be trying to take some of the camps on your side. Same thing goes with this Mordekaiser, right? He's very, almost like worried playing against this Ornn. I would shove that wave, finish it, and go take your Gromp. Because whether you like it or not, this Hecarim's going to be a factor in this game.
Yeah, or push up and take the enemy Krugs because you know that they just took Dragon. So Hecarim has to be on the bot side of the map, and knowing that you don't have a jungler, he's likely in your jungler, which he is. But it's also something I like seeing from Freedom is keeping their foot on the gas with these dragons, right? The faster you take them like on respawn, the more pressure you're putting on Rockridge to find like desperate leads. Because the game will end itself if Freedom can get a Soul and even Elder Dragon. Knowing that Rockridge can't contest, they can't afford to.
Yeah, like at the absolute worst, the benefit of this draft for Freedom is that they will win no matter what.
Right.
If they push their advantage early, they could win through that. If they stay still and do nothing for 30, 40 minutes and just suffocate them out, they will get a Soul, they will get Barons, they will be able to push turrets. And so regardless of if they want to play safe or if they want to play risky, they're in an advantageous state.
Right. Yeah. You see a trade top lane. A lot of damage coming from this Ornn being a tank, but we are no stranger to that.
If anything, when Ornn ults, Mordekaiser's going to try to ult back. But frankly, Ornn's damage early on is a little bit more than you would expect coming from a tank.
Yeah, and all of those brittle procs, baby.
We see the first plate go to Aphelios, so that's money in his pocket, even though kills on the leaderboard are 0-0. There's a 20 CS lead down there, plus now at the turret plate. These are things that cannot be ignored as Hecarim is looking to ult top lane. Okay, so Mordekaiser is ulted. 1v1 Ornn does flash away, can't quite finish the Ornn, and the kill will go to Hecarim. Now Diana blowing an ult for nothing. Now that's an ult advantage toward Tryndamere. It's something to keep an eye on. But money going to Hecarim is not what Rock Ridge wanted to see right now.
Yeah.
We see another engaged bot lane. Follow-up flash. Great hook by Thresh to get the damage off. Wow, we see another fight mid. Tryndamere just surviving. And then, no, I spoke too soon. See, this is that global presence we were just talking about before the game, right? Hecarim may not have the flashy teleport or like leap, I guess, ability that Galio has or Shen has, but he's so fast. He can be wherever he needs to be, and that's...
You got 4 horse legs, dude. He's running quick.
Exactly. That's more money to the Hecarim. This is not what Rockridge wanted to see at all.
Yeah, I think looking at it for the good, they're trying to make cross-map plays. Mordekaiser's calling out that he's ulting top, he's getting ganked. We see the Tryndamere try to force a fight mid. And then after that, we do see a fight bot. We know that Hecarim can't be here. It was kind of a miscalculation in mid because that Hecarim could be there because, of, again, he's so mobile.
Yeah.
But I like the idea of making cross maps when they know where the jungler is.
I agree.
If I'm this Mordekaiser, I'm a little worried because he's a little far behind on where he wants to be for his items, especially because he went for the magic pen boots. Usually you see it a lot mid lane, and it's because people don't build magic resist, right? It's flat pen, which scales better if they're not building it versus the percent.
This could turn into something as Hecarim is looking for a pick on a Tryndamere, caught walking in the river, and now it's not just a 1v1. We move to top lane to see this trade. Tryndamere running for his life. Does look like he gets out. But it is important to note, back to your point about Mordekaiser, Mordekaiser is 46 CS down at 12 minutes.
Yeah, and it's hurting.
That burns. Yeah, Diana also with the most CS in the game at 113.
Right.
It hurts.
Yeah, and now Tryndamere looking very vulnerable. Diana's no stranger to looking for just a quick burst, get out of the tower, die. But it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Not much follow-up, though, such as the cons of Aphelios, but good trades mid lane.
Yeah, we're kind of just seeing a slow burn here where every single laner for Freedom isn't forcing if they don't have to. The person who's forcing is Hecarim, who's allowed to because he has no one to check him, right?
Exactly.
And so we're seeing these turrets slowly go down. I believe mid turret is down to 1 plate. We're having, a few plates top, a few plates bot. I'd like to see this Herald get taken, which it looks like it is now, and then kind of forced mid to see what could happen. That'll be a free mid turret, potentially a second tier as well. I think this game could start getting out of hand for Rock Ridge really quick.
For sure. And I think Freedom is doing a great job of just doing what they need to, like executing what their team comp is. Thresh looking for plays mid lane. I mean, right now he's literally just sitting mid lane. Hecarim being Hecarim, right? Being everywhere. They're not overthinking this strange situation, and it's paying off. This is exactly what they needed to do, and they're not letting it get to them. Great hook by Thresh. Tryndamere could be caught out, but we do see a Taric ult, and Tryndamere will also have his own ult. See if they look to continue. Wukong finds a big ult. We'll find an exhaust onto Diana, and a big shutdown going to Tryndamere, and here comes the Tryndamere damage, right? Tryndamere running real fast, and big heals, getting a double kill, and now a triple kill. Nope, that shutdown will go to Taric. That hurts. But still, 2 big kills for Tryndamere. And hey, signs of life for Rock Ridge.
Yeah, I will say the only thing is that this massive Ornn is not there yet. Because I think the thing that needs to be stopped is some tank, right? Tryndamere is just going to be putting out fat damage once he starts getting that Fury built.
Yeah, and I'm also on top of the Ornn being able to just be that big body, but also to lock down if the Tryndamere does reach a point where it becomes a problem. My only concern right now is that Ornn rushed Abyssal Mask. Ornn's going a damage-centered build for his team, which is fine in a snowbally sense, but also just...
Mordekaiser now has no flash, will get caught by that hook. Oh, and still no ult from Mordekaiser to get out of that, but unfortunate stuff.
Yeah, it's just leading to more damage than Mordekaiser can deal with.
Yeah.
And we're seeing the Diana go in on that Wukong there.
Wow,
Flashing in to confirm
to finish it. Jeez. Wow, big Tryndamere crits, right? Such as the champion. Now seeing if he can... Wow! He will... Now, Aphelios needs to be careful here. Because, yep, Tryndamere still has his ult. He can kill you in 2 seconds.
Oh no.
My lord. So Tryndamere doing what his job is, right? This is... Now we're seeing the funnel style of Rockridge's comp, right? One of these lanes has to get a lead. We'll see who it is. Well, in this case, it's Tryndamere.
Yeah, we're just going to be seeing that Taric hopefully just sit on top of that Tryndamere for the rest of this game. If you have an ultimate prepped, Tryndamere literally cannot die for more than 10, 15 seconds.
Yeah. And they need to be coordinated about it, too. If you're using both your ults at the same time, then what's the point? So we need to see that coordination, too. Again, now this goes to my earlier comment about Freedom keeping their foot on these dragons, right? Because the longer the dragons stay up, the better for Rockridge, right? The slower that the other team is going to naturally get the soul or an Elder Dragon. So I don't envision much of a contest here, but this dragon has been sitting here for a long time, and that's good news for Rockridge.
Yeah, and now we're getting into a point where this Tryndamere is just taking the farms in the jungle as well, which is perfect if you're the side of Rockridge. Your strongest character is just getting more and more strong as well.
We do see that Hydra built.
Yeah, now I do want to point out, when Tryndamere got that double kill in the bot lane, he did take back. I will say, at this point in the game, it's still early enough that your teammates were reviving fast enough to deal with that wave in the mid lane. You want that bot lane tower as Tryndamere. You want that free money, and you can snowball this game out of control.
Good point.
But until, like, he just kind of needs to get comfortable with it. Like, this game is in his hands, and he needs to grab it by the horns.
Something I'm also noticing is that Tryndamere doesn't have a shutdown. So if Tryndamere were to die, it would not give a bunch of money to Freedom. If Mordekaiser looks for an ult, but it won't be enough. Diana has just too much damage. You can't afford to be 1v1ing like that against a character with the most CS in the game. That will create problems.
You also don't have your Mythic finished, which is very unfortunate.
Yeah.
But it's like those are the kind of plays that you want to try to stop. Just stop that bleeding, and you may have a chance.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're seeing Tryndamere respond to Ornn's push, which is not the matchup you want if you're Tryndamere. That's probably the only person on the team that you would rather not see.
Probably, yeah. Taric being no stranger to taking CS, which is a weird result of circumstances, but Hecarim taking a noticeable amount of damage that could turn into something, not from Taric alone, but...
Taric doing a little bit of bullying, getting that Hecarim out of their own jungle. That Herald should be respawning soon, and it was the game decider in the previous game. It'll be interesting to see how it shapes up.
No.
Oh, great hook from Thresh. Taric is in a tough spot here. See if they have the damage to finish him. Hecarim ult comes out, Taric ult is coming down, and it will go down. Does Freedom have the damage? They don't. Ornn teleporting mid lane. Taking a beating with him. But nothing to see there.
Ornn's immediately taking
Taric wow, Taric goes down and Wukong's in trouble too. Oh no, Diana finds a big double kill. Oh, what a flash hook from Thresh, but no lantern follow-up. He threw the lantern and no one took it. They prioritized the tower. Oh no.
Yeah,
Mordekaiser will walk out alive.
It's an unfortunate little miscommunication there.
Yeah. Wow, Mordekaiser might get caught here anyway, though. Hecarim looking to follow up. And yep, down goes Mordekaiser and
Tryndamere, no
Tryndamere.
dash.
Tryndamere forced to blow his ult. This is not what you want to see. Taric is now back. Wukong is now back. They need to clear this wave. I don't think you can be looking for kills other than maybe Thresh. But, yeah. Okay, Thresh hook goes wide. You've got a window. Tryndamere looking to dish as much damage as he can, but Aphelios is dishing it right back. Diana goes back in. Here comes Diana again. Oh, Tryndamere almost finds a kill. Can they finish her? She could turn. No, she can't. All right, she's going to go down. That's 1,000 gold to Tryndamere. Now here comes Hecarim. Right, great dodge. I'm not sure if that was intentional. Oh, Mordekaiser flashes and won't find anything. He does get an ult off, so this will be a kill. And Freedom, for now, forced to back off. I mean, Rockridge stands. Rockridge holds.
Yeah, the only saving grace is that Herald respawned, and then it hit 20 minutes, so now they can't grab it. So that's really lucky for Rockridge. They forced them off. They're going to have these super minion waves in the mid lane because of that inhib being taken. And once again, we funneled some gold into Tryndamere, right? They got that shut down on the Diana, I believe.
Yeah, and that was 1,000 gold, right? Tryndamere is now I've said it a couple times about how Diana has the most CS in the game. Tryndamere's now not far behind, but Diana has one more kill, but this Tryndamere is a problem for Freedom, right? I mean, this is not the cakewalk that I'm sure they were expecting it to be.
Yeah, you have that stacked Hydra. You will have the Taric ulti prepared. It'll be tier 2 soon enough.
Might be in trouble. He's going to get caught. Wow. Now Tryndamere standing by himself. Taric looking to recall, and Wukong walking with a possible flank.
Yeah.
Might look to engage from behind, but they need to go. Oh, Tryndamere gets caught, is forced to ult. Here comes the damage. Taric ult coming down. Big Wukong ult in the back line, but Thresh will find a hook onto Wukong.
Wukong takes out Aphelios.
Wow, but not enough. And so is Tryndamere standing in base, unfortunately unable to do much. And Rockridge will go down. Freedom takes the championship. That's it.
Yeah. The Freedom High School Eagles are the fall finals champion, with Rockridge coming in second place. It was a bit of an unlucky circumstance for the side of Rockridge.
Right.
I think they learned from the first game and adjusted and played much better. I mean, that Tryndamere was scary.
Yeah, kudos to that
agree.
Tryndamere player.
Yes. And to the whole team, really. I mean, I feel like they met the challenge that was presented to them. It's totally unfair to ask any level of expectations from Rockridge there, but they impressed me.
Yeah?
Yeah, and I believe the next game we will be seeing is Smash Brothers Ultimate, and then we will be capping off the night with the Rocket League Fall Finals as well. It's been great to have you guys here to talk about some League of Legends.
It's been great to be here.
Yeah.
You will definitely see, I think, all of our pretty faces later throughout the day as well, depending on the title, and we'll take it back after a short break.